What is up, y'all? And welcome back to episode 40 of That's No Moon Pod. Coincidentally, if y'all believe in coincidences, this episode is dropping the same day as I'm recording this, as the same day of the UAP or UFO Congress Senate hearing that just took place today. This morning on July 26th, Ryan Graves, Commander Fravor, David Grush, and over a dozen different senators and just a full House of Congress discussing the UFO, UAP topic. We all know David Grush's story, the most recent whistleblower to have come out this past June, and everything that's been going on with him lately has just been kind of what's been moving the needle on this topic. And keep in mind that since this was a Congress hearing, everyone present and everyone who was there to speak and had testimonies, other credible witnesses of evidence, everyone there is under oath, and it's as legit and official as anything like this being discussed properly. It's as legit as it can get. And I think that's one of the more important takeaways from the hearing today. I woke up early today, got on the internet. I saw Chris Lato. If you're not subscribed to Chris Lato, he's another former military pilot who is now a UFO investigator, YouTuber, journalist. And go check out his YouTube because he's always pumping out content. And he's another guy who is tired of everything that was being discussed in the hearing today about how our military pilots, commercial pilots, government officials, secret contractors, all these different people who are all involved somehow within this phenomena, they keep hiding information, and there's no real place for people who have serious concerns over our national security or just over someone else's well-being. There's no legit channel for them to discuss these type of things until this Senate hearing today. And Chris Lato is one of those guys who's just as passionate as most of us in this community. David Grush, Commander Fravor, Ryan Graves, I thought all did a great job with what they said and what they brought to the table. Even though I feel like most of us, if you've been following the topic long enough, you know who these guys are. You know how legit they are and how what they've been saying this whole time just needed to be said on a scale as grand as this. Because if you look on the internet today, I mean, you got people that aren't talking or ever talk about UFOs or aliens or whatnot. And I definitely want to talk about aliens specifically with what David Grush had to say later on. But you're noticing that so many different YouTube channels and finally mainstream media outlets are picking up this story, and they're writing articles, and this whole UFO UAP hearing is making headlines globally. And I know the stream was highly viewed around the world, not just in the US, but in the UK as well. The views on the hearing were crazy. Um, and just the fact, again, that this took place today, and even though most of us know the whole story and we believe what these people are saying to be true, um, it's just nice for them to finally present themselves like this in front of people who have probably, just scoffed at the topic for so long and just kicked it under the rug and act like it never happened. And, they're afraid if they even acknowledge any sort of evidence or any kind of testimony within the UFO topic, that, obviously their careers could get, obviously in jeopardy, and their whole lives could be jeopardized just, you know, just by talking about this kind of stuff. And so let me kind of get into what exactly some of my personal favorite talking points were from the hearing. And again, they have to go up there and kind of say what they've already said multiple times on multiple different interviews or podcasts. And I'm talking about David Grush and Ryan Graves and Commander Fravor. We all know their stories and what they're bringing to the table. They just had to do it in front of these people and all these elected officials and the suits, pretty much. Um, but David Grush kind of dropped some more, insight on what he's learned through his um, time within his work in the agency, dealing with the UFOs and non-intelligent um, beings. David Grush, he said that he was informed of a multi-decade UAP crash retrieval and reverse engineering program just during the course of his work while examining all the different programs during the time that he was working there. So, a multi decade UAP crash retrieval reverse engineering program. Obviously, we go back to Roswell. That's the one that I think most people first think of. But multi decade, who knows? It could mean way before that. Last week, on last week's episode, I talked about the Aurora, Texas UFO crash that took place in the late 1800s, where a UFO crashed on some property and some people came by and swooped up all the crash retrieval, and there was a body, which I'll get into what David Grush has to say, which kind of really made the most headlines today. But this crash in the late 1800s in Aurora, Texas, there was an occupant who was supposedly killed during the crash and was given a Christian burial in a local cemetery in Aurora, Texas. And these people who retrieved the UFO swooped it up and dumped some of the remaining pieces of the craft down a well on this property where the UFO crashed on. And the owners of the property who used the well for their drinking water ended up getting really bad skin diseases and really bad arthritis later on in their lives when they were completely healthy people during the time. And that was in the late 1800s again. So even before, way before Roswell, before airplanes, before all that kind of stuff, you have this story that has a lot of credible witnesses, and uh, it's not just some kind of campfire story being told by some, Southerners here in Texas. It's actually has some credibility to it. And if there's actually a UFO buried in Aurora, Texas, in a local cemetery, David Grush kind of just confirms that that is most definitely a possibility, because they ask him, um, they're just kind of putting him through the ringer, giving him the business with the questions, and they finally kind of, even though he kind of has to tiptoe around certain answers throughout the whole time, um, they kind of just finally ask him, do we have alien bodies? Is there occupants within these crash UFO, UAP, crash retrieval? Are there actually alien bodies? And he says that, yeah, he was informed that, yeah, there are non intelligent beings. That's what he likes to say, that were in these crafts that crashed. And not only did we recover the UFOs, but we recovered the freaking alien bodies too. And for him to go on and say this under oath at this Senate hearing, obviously that's going to be the main headline of the hearing. And rightfully so, because when he pretty much says all of this on News Nation when he first came out, David Grush, it's on News Nation. No one's tuning in to News Nation, on the reg. But for him to just say that in front of all these people, credible people, senators, AOC's there, everyone's going crazy. I haven't seen the UFO community, UFO Twitter. I haven't seen it this hyped up since I don't even know when. And it's crazy because it's kind of been building and building slowly and slowly, and then it's just started ramping up recently, and then now it's kind of just, everyone's chomping at the bit now for more information. No one's kind of scoffing at this, and people are talking about it. And like I said, people that don't talk about UFOs or aliens, YouTubers, mainstream media, they're talking about it now, and they're gonna be talking about it from now on. Um, because this is the hottest topic right now. It's just what it is. Go on Twitter, what's trending. Go on anything right now, what's trending. It's what was said and discussed during this Senate hearing today. And you gotta have the utmost respect for Ryan Graves, Commander Fravor, and David Grush to put their reputations, their careers, and just their overall American, what they stood for as military and people that protect our country, for them to go up there and just speak the truth openly under oath. You just got to have the most respect for those guys. And I think them doing this way is going to help more people come out and finally reveal their story, because these three guys aren't the only ones, obviously. Um, I forget what the Marine's name was who was on a podcast recently, and I discussed this story a couple episodes back as well, to where the soldier, American soldier in Indonesia with his squad, is doing his duties, and him and his guys stumble upon this crew of, I don't even want to call them military, but a secret military esque group of well armed guys guarding a football field sized UFO being filled up with artillery and a whole lot of different equipment, where it had an octagonal shape to it, no sound, and all this greenery in Indonesia. And this American soldier with his guys pull up on these guys guarding this freaking UFO that's a football field size. And these guys take their guns, get their IDs, and they're looking at this whole thing being taken place. And the soldier who was on this podcast telling this story says that he had photos on this camera, which later on, after this UFO that was just hovering there, being filled up with different artillery, flies off like a blur, which exactly how he describes. He said it just lifts up in the air and takes off, and no sound. The trees, nothing moved at all as it flew off, and he said it just looked like a black blur as it moves. And as when people describe seeing the UFOs fly off at that speed, I try to always like think in my head, right? How would that look if that was me looking at that? Like, how would my eyes just, what would, And as soon as he said it like that, I just felt like I put myself there where he was at, and I could just see this huge UFO just fly off at a blinking of an eye, and all of it looked like was just a blur. And then it's gone. And he said that after this, after they took their weapons, they told him to turn around. He thought that they were going to kill him and his guys, because they just saw this happen, and they don't know who these guys are who are guarding this huge UFO and who they work for exactly. So whenever they got their weapons and their IDs taken from them and told them to turn around and act like they never saw this, they thought they were about to get got from the back. They feared for their lives after they saw what they just saw. And he's another guy who has recently come out in public and said, "This is my story." Let me just talk about a few other things that David Grush had to say. Because he even said, too, that, or I don't know if it was David Grush or Ryan Graves, but one of them said that they described a football field sized red square that came from the ocean and hovered over Vandenberg Air Force Base before shooting off and just disappearing. So either Ryan Graves or David Grush, one of them today, described another football field sized UFO, but this time this one was a red square, and it came from an ocean, and it was just hovering over an Air Force base, and then just shot off. And David Grush his job was to be the guy who, was looking into these programs and had these different types of clearances. And this is the whole reason why he came out in the first place, was because he was being denied, and he knows people personally who have been, and he hasn't said for sure, been killed by these crafts, either by operating on them, trying to reverse engineer them, or just by flying them in general. But David Grush personally, he said, yeah, not only do I know that people have confirmed that we have non intelligent alien bodies, but I know people, and I'm speaking as David Grush here, that American people have been killed working on these things, reverse engineering these things, or flying them. And all these things are kind of still flying over some people's heads, but when you really think about it, if there's someone who has killed an American, that never sits well with us, obviously. And for David Grush, you could tell just by the way he answers that question, he's obviously not happy about it. And he's not happy that nothing has been done about it. Grush interviewed multiple individuals who have experience with multiple different crafts of non human origin. And these programs, they're unsanctioned. Um, he said there's companies that are overcharging taxpayers for technology and they're funneling money through these programs just to reverse engineer the UFOs. And I'm not, again, all this I'm saying from what David Grush is saying, I'm not saying it on here trying to, sound like some whatever. This is what David Grush said today in this Senate hearing. And I think David Grush is kind of, I want to say worried, but I'm sure he is about some kind of reprisal for him, um, or at least against him, and probably Ryan Graves, Commander Fravor. People that are obviously not happy that these guys are spilling the beans like this. Um, that's why we need these ways of these people to come out and safely tell their story without having to worry about not only just their careers and their reputation, but their lives. Because, like I said again, David Grush knows people who have been killed because of all this. Reverse engineering, flying these things, or people just getting got because they know too much and we're probably going to spill the beans. Um, Again, this whole Senate hearing today, it was just cool to see um, all the whole community come together. Um, Jeremy Corbell was there, um, George Knapp. This whole deal today was one of the biggest steps that you could ask for. Um, and it's not the end. There's more to come. This was just the beginning. Um, I could go on and on about, what exactly everything that was said, but I'll probably still end up missing some points here and there, anyways. Um, but one of the bigger things, again, that was said were what we already kind of knew from these guys, but it's just the legitimacy of it all. Um, and I don't know what is up with these huge football field sized UFOs being reported. Um, I'm looking at, if y'all know, Giorgio Tsoukalos, Ancient Aliens, legend, right? Um, he has been really active on Twitter with this whole topic, which is cool because when people think of aliens, naturally we think of Giorgio, right? We just think of the meme. He's the meme. Um, but he's legit. Um, and he's been really active within this topic too. Um, and he tweeted out that he just said disclosure just happened. We are not alone. We have never been alone. And he goes on to kind of just what the hearing was about and kind of what David Grush said. Um, he put in on his tweet too. Sworn testimony included a flying black cube inside a clear sphere. This is the one that Ryan Graves described, but I'm reading the Giorgio tweet. Um, Ryan Graves described a flying black cube inside a clear sphere, and that's when they also talk about the red square, the size of a football field over the ocean, or that came out of the ocean. And they said that the objects went from 0 to Mach 2 in a snap of a finger, from 12,000 feet to 80,000 feet in the snap of a finger as well. And all of it is documented and recorded. And they asked Ryan Graves and Grush and Commander Fravor that, say if these things were to, be hostile against us, and they asked Ryan Graves and Fravor and Grush, would we be able to at least be prepared somehow or protect ourselves if these technologies were to become hostile on us? And they flat out just said, no, there's no way. And there's no way that anything that we have can do those speeds that quickly and fly like that without being disintegrated completely. There's just no possible way with our technology here on Earth. Just to kind of wrap this episode up, I still can't believe that this Senate hearing took place and what was said and all the information that was given to these credible people within our government. I can't wait to see where this whole thing goes from here. Um, I think for the most part, the whole world just kind of realized that not only was Roswell probably a legit thing and all these stories throughout time, for the most part, they have to deal with aliens and UFOs. It's all been a whole thing that's been fabricated by our government, but it's true. Not all of it's true, but just think about what you believe to be true, and it probably is. And the whole world knows now that everyone who's believed and continued to believe and didn't let people sway our opinions because of, money, religion, any kind of ideology that you believe in, stigma around this whole topic for so long has been so, we just been done dirty for so long, and not just by skeptics but by our own government. And people have been lying to us for who knows how long. Literally, we will never know how long, probably, we've been lied to. Think of all the people throughout time who have fought for this topic and fought for what they believe to be true, what they saw, that they're not crazy, that they're not on drugs, they're not mentally unstable. These things are real. They happen and they've been happening and they're going to continue to happen. It's now hopefully no more of that, crazy talk trying to make us think we're the crazy ones for trying to get more in touch with not just what's out there, but what's within us. Because this whole UFO, UAP phenomena, you still want to call it that, is way bigger than just a 3-foot gray alien being crashing somewhere in a desert in New Mexico. This has so much more meaning to it than just us reverse engineering these technologies. All of it has to deal with who we are as people, what our purpose is here on this earth, on this universe, what this whole thing means as life. Why are we here? But now we know that we are not alone. So now the next question is, why are we here? And all those people that have been lying to us throughout time, right to our faces, and then going home that same night, eating dinner in their nice house, making us all seem like we're the crazy ones. Y'all let me know what y'all think. I know a lot of people have a lot to say about this, so let me know down in the comments, y'all. But I guess that'll be it for episode 40. Before I go, like, comment, subscribe, follow me on Twitch, follow me on Snapchat. All my socials will be in the description, y'all. TikTok, I'm on Threads, I'm on all that. Be on the lookout for merch coming soon. Things are going up, y'all, and let's keep it going. Episode 40. Let's go for 40 more. I'll see y'all next week. But until then, I hope y'all have a great rest of y'all's week. And y'all stay safe. And I'll catch y'all on the flip. Peace.